Got sound, Sarah.
So, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's Bounce Together webinar. We're hoping this will give you a little bit of an insight into how we can help you get ahead with whole school wellbeing, help you measure and evaluate staff, pupil and parent wellbeing in your school. So I'm Katie O'Brien. And I'll be doing the boring bit this evening, I'm afraid, and a bit of the housekeeping. So firstly, if everybody could just make sure that they keep their mics off throughout the broadcast, it just really helps it flow a little bit better and makes the content a lot easier for you to follow. We will be recording this webinar, so we absolutely love it if you'd like to turn your cameras on, and we do like to see your faces, but we completely understand from a recording point of view if you'd like to keep those off. We will also be streaming this webinar, so just as well something to bear in mind in terms of cameras on, this will be streamed across a couple of our social media sites. I'll shortly be handing over to my colleague Laura, who will take you through a demonstration of the platform. And then towards the end of the webinar, we'll come back and round off with any questions. So if you've got any questions throughout, please do pop them in the group chat, and we'll be taking a couple on our live streams as well. And we'll try and get through as many as possible at the end. And we do like to make it a really interactive session and make sure you get those questions answered. So make sure they're jotted down and we'll get through as many as you can. I'll make sure tomorrow morning that everybody on the broadcast, everybody registered, will be sent the recording. So if you do want to pass any of this information on, that again makes that a lot easier and you can catch up on anything. So I guess that's it from me, and I'll hand over to my lovely colleague Laura. I think you're on mute, Laura.
I am on mute. Hi everybody, my name's Laura, and thank you so much for joining today's session on getting ahead with whole school wellbeing and measurement. So in a moment I'm going to share my screen with you, so let me do that now actually. And I just wanted to, I suppose, say at the start, we're only a fairly small group that's joined us today. I know we might have other people that are on and off throughout the session, but if you don't mind, if you could maybe introduce yourself on the chat, you know, which school you're dialing in from today and what your position is in school, and even a little bit on kind of what you're doing at the moment in terms of measuring wellbeing, and that might help support the session, you know, towards the end when we come to questions and answers. So yeah, feel free to make a little bit of an intro on the chat if you'd like. While you're doing that, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Bear with me a second. I'm having a moment here, Katie, and I don't normally use PowerPoint, so I'm just going to, right, okay, we're here.
I just need to switch your screens around, Laura, so...
Oh, yeah, apologies. You know, you'd think I hadn't done this before, wouldn't you?
It's my fault, I was the one that sent you a PowerPoint, not a Google document. I take full responsibility.
Right, here we go. All right, brilliant. So I'm hoping you can all see this now. So I guess a really good place to start today is to give you a little bit of an introduction to who we are and how we support schools. So Bounce Together is an online mental health and wellbeing measurement platform that's been designed specifically for education. So we work with schools up and down the country, across the world actually, that are all using Bounce Together to help them to engage their pupils, staff, parents, the whole school community on their health and wellbeing, and also to capture their voice on other really important topics. One of the really unique things about Bounce Together is that we include a collection of over 60 evidence-based digital surveys within the platform. So instead of schools having to worry about creating their own surveys, we provide you with all of that. So we've done all of the hard work, and we're constantly looking at new surveys that may be of interest to our schools to really help you to understand the health and the wellbeing of your whole school community. So it's an online survey platform that allows you to check in with your school community at any point of the year. We don't just stop at the surveys, we also provide instant reports on completion of surveys to make that reporting and analysis really straightforward and easy for you. We also integrate with your school's management information system. So if you're using SIMS Bromcom, Arbor, whichever one it is that you have, we integrate with those systems. So it means that all of your pupil and staff data is instantly available in Bounce. So when it comes to setting surveys and really understanding those results, it's all done automatically. So to tell you a little bit more about the surveys that we have available, bear with me a second. We have 12 different categories of wellbeing surveys. So you can see the 12 categories on the screen here. Usually at this point, I ask schools when we're doing one-to-one meetings, are there any of these categories that really stand out to you? Normally the answer is all of them, but if we chat through a few of those today, so we have lots of surveys that allow you to look at your general wellbeing. So often a really good starting point for our schools if they're looking to gain a bit of a temperature check on whole school wellbeing for staff, pupils, or parents. But then we also have surveys that allow you to understand things like stress and anxiety, which seems to be coming up quite a lot at the moment. One of the surveys that we recently added to the platform was on exam stress, which is a really important thing that we want to be able to capture those insights and voices on from our students. One to also think about is our bullying and online safety category. So a lot of the categories that we have in BounceTogether are brilliant to link to your PSHE curriculum. So it doesn't just stop at that that wellbeing survey. You can go much further with BounceTogether. I'm going to drill down a little bit into the attitudes to learning category, which takes us really nicely into reading and wellbeing. So there's lots and lots of research out there that looks at the links between reading and wellbeing. The National Literacy Trust did an awful lot of research into this area, and their findings showed that children who engage with reading are actually 3 times more likely to have higher levels of mental wellbeing than those who do not. So reading attitudes are a really strong predictor of mental wellbeing. So based on this and other things as well, we partnered up with the SLA, the School Library Association, who have been going for 85 years. They're the experts when it comes to school libraries. So we created a package called Wellbeing Through Reading, which looks at 3 different elements. So first of all, you have an attitude to reading survey. There's one for primary school age pupils and one for secondary school age students. And the survey asks them all about their reading habits and their attitudes to reading. So, do you read? When you read, where do you do it? How would you feel if you got a book for Christmas? So lots of questions that really, I suppose, allow you to do a bit of a deep dive into those reading attitudes and really, give you some insightful information which without doing it, you wouldn't have known. It's a scored survey, so at the end of that, you get to look at kind of how your school is scoring in terms of reading attitudes overall. But then you're able to drill right the way down to classes, year groups, different demographics of students like pupil premium, SEN, EAL, etc., all the way down to the individual child. So those that perhaps are scoring lower, you might want to look at their responses in more detail, put some actions into place. Or with the Wellbeing Through Reading subscription, you also get a membership to the School Library Association. They have an advice line. They can give you book recommendations, activities, lesson plans, resources. So a really great team of people to kind of ensure that you do have engaged learners when it comes to reading, because we know that reading links to so much else for those individuals. As well as that, if you run a wellbeing survey in correlation with the attitude to reading survey, you will then also probably start to see the correlations between the two. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an insight into wellbeing through reading. So I'm going to move on now to the next slide. So here at BounceTogether, we really believe in that wellbeing first approach. I suppose just to talk a little bit further on that, we've got a quote here that was written by Adrian Bethune, who was the founder of Teach Happy and also the author of Wellbeing in the Primary School Classroom. And if I read that quote out, happiness and wellbeing should be at the heart of education. Happier teachers teach better, and your learners learn better. We know how important that is. So if we first have a further talk around, teacher well-being. So unfortunately, there's so much research out there that shows us that the teaching profession is a really stressful one. There's a lot of statistics out there, including from the Teacher Wellbeing Index. You can see two of those that I've highlighted on the screen. And I think it just, I guess, raises that awareness that, we do need to have happy teachers. We need to support them as much as possible. We know that our teachers will teach better if they're feeling happier, and therefore that's going to lead to more positive outcomes for our pupils. So within BounceTogether, we believe that we should be allowing our staff to have a voice, so that you can put that right support in place. So we include 9 staff wellbeing surveys as part of our package. Some of them are shorter snapshot wellbeing surveys that you could run every kind of 6 weeks, termly perhaps, and then there are some surveys that are, I suppose, better run annually, or twice a year, which go a little bit further into things like stresses at work, career progression, home and work-life balance, job satisfaction, etc. It'd be great perhaps to hear on the chat if anybody is running staff wellbeing surveys at the moment, and how are you doing those? Is it a manual survey on paper or using something like a Google or Microsoft form? Any insight on that would be really appreciated. I'm going to plug in my laptop because I have not put my charger in today. You can just give me a second. Moving on to the next slide. Our learners, our pupils. So, taking that wellbeing first approach, it's going to naturally help academic performance. But, there was also lots of research done, longitudinal research done by the London School of Economics, who looked into adult happiness. And their findings showed that the strongest predictor of adult happiness was emotional health in childhood. The weakest predictor was academic success. So just, highlights and really brings home the fact that the happier our children are, the more likely they are to live more happy lives. Also, lots of research out there from Public Health England that, shows the links between wellbeing and attainment. So we have a really strong collection. You saw the 12 categories of wellbeing surveys that we have available. We have a really strong collection of those surveys that our schools can use throughout the year to really ensure that you've got that constant temperature check of overall wellbeing of your children, all the way down to that individual layer, so that you can put the right things in place. So we talk to schools every day, and we have new schools coming on board with BounceTogether every week. And there are really common things, that schools come to us for, and, reasons why they choose us. So first of all, it's saving so much time and money. So with BounceTogether, we're doing all the hard work for you. So, we speak to so many schools that prior to using BounceTogether, they may have been looking online and spending lots of time developing their own tools for wellbeing surveys. We've done so much work and research to bring, validated, academically researched, evidence-based surveys and measures that we know are suitable for your school community. So it saves time, and they're also linked to the school management system. So that whole, reporting side of it is just so quick and easy. Your best place, working with those pupils on their interventions and support. Let us do all of that hard work for you. Then kind of moving down to the next part of this is, being able to make more informed choices. So often the biggest problem that schools have, and you may be able to resonate with this, is that schools really know that they're doing lots of things to support the well-being of their pupils and of their school community, but they're unable to actually evidence that and demonstrate it. So how do you measure the impact and the success of the interventions that you're putting into place? With BounceTogether, we will provide you with all of the tools, pretty instantly as well, to be able to do that. You'll have, instant reports that are presentation ready that you can put forward to SLT and governors. I was speaking to a primary school last week who talked to us about the fact that they do forest school there, and she knows that it has a really positive impact on those children during that time that they're doing it, but she is often unable to really prove that. So having Bounce Together, she's been able to do a pre and post intervention survey that has actually then given her the physical evidence she needs to show that yes, we need to keep doing this at our school. We want to give you all the tools so that you can demonstrate as much wellbeing progress as well as academic progress. The final thing is, schools need to be able to be, I suppose, in some cases, more reactive to situations that arise, but also more proactive. So with Bounce Together, it's going to help you to uncover every individual that needs support before it's too late. Often without having something like Bounce Together, schools only find out about certain children later on in the process, when perhaps they've got more serious health and wellbeing needs. If you do have that consistent check-in with wellbeing, you're probably going to uncover some children that perhaps were going under the radar a little bit prior to using the system. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is show you a bit of a demonstration of Bounce Together, take you into the platform so you can see the experience for a pupil taking a wellbeing survey, and then I'm going to take you into the results area to show you as a wellbeing lead or someone who is responsible for that area, what you can do with the results and how easy it is to look at. So we'll then open up to a questions and answers as well, so you can find out a little bit more. So I've taken us to the Bounce Together home screen. So this is where everybody would log into the system when they first access Bounce Together. So Bounce is accessible from absolutely anywhere at any time, from any device. If you're on a mobile phone, a tablet or a laptop, yourself, students, parents, you can access this on anything. So you can log in by typing in a username and password, or single sign-on with Google accounts or Microsoft, or if children don't have those, quite a common place, especially for those younger children, is by using our QR code, where they can just scan that and it will take them directly into their account. So I'm going to go into in fact, I'm not going to go in using Google because that will take me in as a manager. I'm going to take you in as a pupil first of all, so you can see how they would see Bounce Together and also complete a survey. So what you can see here is that I've logged into Bounce Together as a pupil, and they would see their name here, and they can also see any badges that they've collected. If you wish, you can allocate badges for children as rewards on the system. And then here in the centre, I can see my surveys. Katie, did we have somebody put their hand up then, maybe to ask a question? I thought I saw a hand then, but I don't know if there's anything in the chat.
We did have a hand, so if you would like to ask a question, feel free. Or I don't know, sometimes they can go on by mistake. Yeah, we can move on if not. So if you do have a question, just pop it in the chat for us and we'll make sure that we come to that one first at the end.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so yes, so we're logged in as a pupil. We can see that this pupil has a survey to take, so they would simply click take survey and it will take them into the survey screen. So it always gives our children a bit of an opening statement, so there's no right or wrong answers. They can also see how many questions they need to answer as well, which is good. Not all platforms show you, so you don't know if there's 10 questions or 100 questions, and then they can just hit begin and it takes them into the survey screen. So you can see question 1 here. They would just go through and answer their question. You can also see that within the survey screen, you've got this icon here, which is the immersive reader icon. If you've never used immersive reader, it's fantastic for any of your younger learners, children with SEN or EAL or any lower ability. They can just hit the immersive reader icon, and what it will do is take them into some different text preferences. So first of all, they can do things like changing the font size. They can change the background colour, which is fantastic for those with dyslexia. If you move to reading preferences here, we can do things like line focus. There's a picture dictionary. So if we click on a word, it would bring up some illustrations of what these words mean, and they can also have it read out aloud to them, and also in other languages. You can translate into over 60 languages with Bounce Together. Not only is this brilliant for pupils, but it's also fantastic for your parents and carers. So many schools don't just stop at pupil and staff wellbeing surveys. They're also wanting to send out surveys to their parents and carers as well. So if you do have any parents where they have low or no English, they can also be translated for them as well. And you can do that by word and also by document. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea. And once they set those preferences, it will remember that each time they log into Bounce Together. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an insight on the taking the survey experience for children. They can save it at any time, which means they can come back to it later. And I'm now going to log in as a pupil, sorry, as a member of staff. Now, before I show you the kind of results area, I suppose I'm going to go a little bit backwards actually and show you just a PDF report that schools will get on completion of running a survey in Bounce Together. So I've got some of these saved already, just to help you to understand here how it works. So on completion of any wellbeing survey in Bounce Together, you're always given a report that you can share with SLT. It's great for you to be able to analyse your results. So there's no manual input that you need to get to this stage. So on the first page of every report that Bounce Together produces for you, you'll always see an overview of this survey. So what category was it? What subdomains of wellbeing does it look at? Was it a scored survey? And what was that scoring? And also, when did you set it? Who set it? And how many responses did you have? So this was a school that ran the Sterling Children's Wellbeing Scale, which is our most popular survey within the platform. And you can see that we had 165 responses. So once you get into the results for this survey, you can see the first section shows us the question by question responses, and it's RAG rated. So we can really start to understand in quite a visual sense, how positive the survey was. If we move down to the second part of this report, this is where we can start to make this quite meaningful, really. So we've got some scoring. So we can see that overall, this school scored an average of 45 out of 60. But not only does it show us what our school have scored, it then breaks it down into all the other groups and demographics. So if we focus here on year 3, so we can see that they scored on average as a year group 45.9, which is a little bit higher than the whole school average. Let's look into the classes of those year groups. So we've got 3 classes in year 3, and we can see that 3DR scored a lot higher, so they're seeming to be more happy than the other groups within their year. And we can see that then we've got our split between gender and the demographics. So it's quite clear to see in this case that our EAL children in year 3 are scoring considerably higher than their year group and also the whole school average for wellbeing. So what we could do at a later date then is actually drill straight down into EAL to understand who is bringing that average up, or which pupils are bringing that average up. And in the opposite sense, we could have a look at our free school meals children, which are coming in quite a lot lower. So in fact, let's do that now together. So I'm going to go into bear with me, the free school meals report that I've saved for us. And so now it's going to just show me this this information based on our free school meals children. So we can first of all look at that RAG rated report where we can see all pupil responses to that question, and then it's breaking it down into our free school meals children. And then if we look at the scored part of this report, we can then start to look at overall what free school meals children in year 3 scored, year 4, year 5 and year 6. So that gives you an overview, but it doesn't just stop there. So you're going to be probably quite intrigued to understand, okay, well, what did the individual pupils in this year group score? So in the next part, this is where we can really understand our information and our pupils. So to the top right hand side, we can start to understand the scoring and how it's weighted, and then here we can start to understand our children and how they've scored in each of those areas. So if we take a look at Oliver Davis, you can see that he and the next child in red are the bottom scoring 20% of pupils, and our top scoring 20% of pupils in year 3 were those 2 children here. If we go back to Oliver, we can see that overall he scored 29 out of 60 for his overall emotional well-being, which is very low if we consider that the school average was 45. We can then start to look at where he scored lower. So first of all, we've got our positive emotional state column. So he scored lowest here, really, and then we can see where he scored in those other 2 areas. This can really help to guide you in terms of who needs that support, what type of support do they need, and perhaps could you arrange, if there's certain children that are all scoring low in that particular category, could you maybe plan an intervention and some small group work for those, or does it need to be something more specific and one-to-one with those children? So that gives you an overview of just how great the reporting is down to pupil level in BounceTogether. On the final page of any report in BounceTogether, it will always give you a final sheet that allows you to look at what does that scoring mean. It'll do things like look at the research that was done at the time, so you can compare, well, where do we stand in comparison to that research, and then also a little bit of information about the categories. So I hope that gives you a nice overview of that end report that you get. So how did you get to that report? So I'm logged in as a staff member now in BounceTogether. You can see that there are quick links. So first of all, we've got create survey, which is where you would go if you wanted to create your own bespoke survey to get the voice or feedback from any of your school community. Assign survey, where we would go to quickly assign one of our evidence-based surveys, and assign public survey, perhaps you wanted to roll out some surveys to parents, for example. Let's go into survey results, which is where we can find all of the results from surveys that we have ran previously. So you'll always see in here the filter where you can look at results from specific academic years if you wish to, and then also you've got tiles for each of the types of surveys that you have run since having BounceTogether. So I'm going to go into this first tile, which is Sterling Children's Wellbeing Scale. You can see that I have assigned surveys 5 times on this since using the system. And then in here, we can then look at the different surveys that we have assigned. So I'm going to focus on this one here first of all. So first of all, we can see that we ran this survey and Bounce is telling me that I've had 9 students respond so far. 9 complete, and I've also got 21 children that didn't take it. If I'd set this to a group and I want to know, okay, well, who is it that I need to chase and find out, we could see their names here. And then we can go into the results and have a look at how children are responding, what our survey results are looking at so far. So first of all, I can see we're looking at this on a question by question breakdown. So it's very visual, really easy to understand your results. So first of all, I can do things like, look at this as a chart. So I think good things will happen in my life. I can change the way that this is viewed, and I can also change it to a count rather than a percentage. So I can see I've actually got 2 children that said never. If I want to know, well, who are those 2 children? Down at the bottom, I can see the forename and surname of those. I can then move along the questions. I could filter these responses. So because of that integration with your management system, so SIMS or ISAMS, etc., you're able to start filtering here. So if you want to know, okay, well, how do my pupil premium students compare to the rest of the school the rest of the baseline data, we can then start to look at the survey to our baseline and to our pupil premium. Same if you're perhaps a class teacher and you want to know, well, how does my class compare to everybody else that took this survey? We can go all the way down to an individual pupil layer. So if you are maybe doing some one-to-one work with a pupil and just want to report on them, you can just click summary report and get a nice analysis report directly on that individual. So moving back now to that survey screen here, the other thing that we get asked quite a lot in BounceTogether is, how can BounceTogether, show impact and help me to evidence the successes that we're having. So we talked about that during the slides earlier. So I'm just going to show you now how that comparison works. So if we look at this survey first of all, and we say, okay, this was our pre-intervention survey, and we want to hit compare, and we now want to compare that with the post-intervention survey that I ran. BounceTogether will now just go away, and it will start to show me the impact. So it's really clear to see in this particular question that whatever we've been doing is having a really positive impact, because pre-intervention we had that 22% of pupils who were saying never, so I think good things will happen in my life. Now we've seen a complete decrease on that, and we've got much more positive responses, in that quite a lot of the time and all of the time. So it's very easy to prove that the work that you're doing is working, and sometimes in a sense actually we won't be continuing with that activity or that intervention because it hasn't had that impact that we thought it would. So that is I suppose a whistle stop tour into BounceTogether and how the platform works. I was going to open up to some questions now. I don't know if any have already gone into the chat, but yeah, Katie, I don't know if you want to see if there's anything that...
Yeah, we had a couple on our Facebook Live, actually, so I'll start with those, and then it gives everybody a bit of time if they've got questions and they're joining in the meeting to just pop them in the meeting chat. But first one to start with would be, can you create your own surveys and add those to BounceTogether?
Yes, you can. I'm going to just stop sharing my screen just so we can everybody can see me, and I'm back on the screen for everybody. But yeah, so you can create your own bespoke surveys in BounceTogether. It's really common. We had a call from a customer earlier today who wanted to do a bespoke survey to get some feedback on staff on a particular topic that was which was something they need to learn more about at the moment. So yeah, very easy to do that. And I suppose the other thing to highlight with regards to bespoke surveys, if you're setting a bespoke survey to an individual pupil or a group of pupils, you are also able to use emojis and things as answers as well. So how are you feeling today? Could be a sad face, happy face, angry face. So there are other options for completing those surveys.
There's lots of functionality, isn't there, as well, when you're in terms of actually creating that survey and the questions?
Yeah, and the question type. Yeah, so if it's a text box answer where they can type in their own type of question or a multiple choice, yeah, you've got so much flexibility in doing your own. But I guess the thing to highlight is that even if you do a bespoke survey, BounceTogether will still give you that instant reporting, in that nice layout that you saw earlier when we saw the PDF reports.
We quite like schools sharing their ideas in terms of surveys as well. So we have a BounceTogether community that our customers are part of, and we've had one school recently where they have a challenge in their school in terms of identifying young carers. So they've gone away and designed and worked with a couple of schools in the area, a kind of young carer survey that's working really well for them, and they've actually shared that was also something to put in our community and share with the schools. So we're quite keen on schools sharing good practice and what's working in that way. Next question, Laura. How long does it take to generate a wellbeing report from a survey?
Oh, instant. So you don't have to send your results back to us, and we have to go away and generate the report for you. You have instant access to your results. So as soon as children start to respond, it doesn't even have to be that you wait for all pupils to answer. You can access your results in that results area straight away and hit summary report, and within less than kind of 10 seconds that report will be back to you, and you'll have all the insight you need.
I'm going to skip a few questions because I like this question. But what do you have any examples, like favourite user stories or examples of good practice that stick with you?
Yeah, so gosh, we do get so many good use cases with BounceTogether, and then I always struggle to think of the one to talk about first. But we had a school that were down in Norfolk that used BounceTogether. Well, prior to using BounceTogether, they were trying to complete paper-based surveys, and then from starting to use BounceTogether, they went on to completing whole school, termly wellbeing surveys. They had a particular boy in their class who had scored really low in one of their surveys, but without BounceTogether, they wouldn't have been able to I suppose, to highlight that individual person. So we have a lot of use cases where children are highlighted, those that weren't going under the radar. From doing that survey, they were able to take that little boy to one side and find out more about the individual needs and his struggles at that time, and then put in a really good support in place for him. Completed the survey again the next term, and his results were so much more positive. Katie, I always like to throw that one back to you as well, if it's a best story. So whatever you've got.
I think the one that probably will always stick out for me, and Laura probably knows already what I'm going to say because I always go on about this particular case. But there was a school that was quite local to us, a local school, and they were running a general wellbeing survey that asked kind of a variety of questions. It's probably one of our most popular surveys for schools that are looking to just take a temperature check on general wellbeing, because it looks into lots and lots of different areas which you can then drill down into further. So in terms of general kind of overall scoring, there was one particular child who scored really well overall, but there was one particular question that was asking something about kind of home relationships and home life, and his score was just significantly lower for this particular question. So when the schools actually went back in, kind of spoke to the child, I think they spoke to the family and put in a phone call, it was the mum that actually said to the school that it's not my son, it's me. She said, I'm really struggling. I think he had a severely autistic brother, and she was really struggling, didn't know who to turn to for help. She didn't know what help was available, and the school were able to kind of offer her some support, guidance around that. But it's something that they said they would have had absolutely no idea that was something that was going on. I think that just for me really highlighted just how broad a kind of data set you get back from running a survey, and what you can really do with that on a much broader perspective that probably you don't actually think about really every day in terms of our own benefits and what we talk about, do we? So I think that would be my favourite story.
Yeah, and just something I've just thought about was another school that we work with still today, and that we're having quite a lot of issues with attendance and low attendance in school, and they ran one of our exclusive surveys in the platform called the Student Subjective Wellbeing Questionnaire, which is all about connectedness and belonging in school. So from running that survey, it did show them that I suppose there were significant issues with how connected their children were and their relationships within school. So from running that survey, it gave them lots of information to be able to make some changes. And it's in turn had some very positive effects to that school in terms of their attendance and their outcomes.
This is an interesting question, Laura. I think it kind of links back to what we were talking about before in terms of that child that answered that particular question in a certain way. It's does the software alert you to any kind of concerning answers?
So at this, we had a development meeting earlier this week actually. So at this moment today, BounceTogether wouldn't alert you straight away, but obviously when you're looking in your results area, it will obviously highlight each individual child when you run that summary report. But we're building some integration at the moment where you'll be able to put some parameters in place so that if you have children that are scoring under a certain percent or a certain grade within a survey, it will notify the relevant people that you select and then advise them of those children. The other side of it is if any of you schools are using CPOMs or a certain, other safeguarding solutions. We now have a partnership with CPOMs, and we're actually, I suppose, building that link between wellbeing data and safeguarding data. Obviously, so interlinked, and it's so important that when you are running wellbeing surveys, that is directly speaking back to any people information on that safeguarding system. So that is also something that is in the pipeline. So both of those things are coming, during this academic year. Yeah, hope that answers that question.
Yeah, I think we looked at the CPOMs piece, didn't we, the other day, and it's absolutely fantastic, and the impact it will make, I think, kind of speaks for itself in terms of feedback we've had from schools. But it's not just kind of the concerning answers that it will alert you to, it's movement in wellbeing scores, kind of changes, it's lots of different kind of triggers that will essentially feed that information into your safeguarding platform and alert you to kind of where those children need that support. But I think we've probably got time for one more question, so I'll try to pick one more question. Oh goodness, there's a couple on here. So this one's interesting, actually, and it might be applicable for a couple on this meeting. So I've just completed my senior mental health lead training. Will the software help me to embed a whole school approach?
Yeah, totally, and it's a really common question that we get. We get so many inquiries from schools that have, or the mental health lead who has completed that senior mental health lead training. So quite often BounceTogether comes up during those training sessions when it gets to the measurement part. So often, once you have done your senior mental health lead training and you are then trying to create and embed that whole school approach to wellbeing, I suppose you need to know your starting point. So often BounceTogether will be used right at that initial stage to run a whole school wellbeing survey for pupils, for staff. You might also want to get some parent and carer voice, just to understand, from a parent's perspective, do they feel that they know who their mental health lead is in school, and do they know what the wellbeing policy is? Do they have any suggestions on what might help them as parents? But then from a pupil point of view, having that whole school, understanding and that report of where things are at right now before you make any changes, and the same for staff. And then obviously, you can use BounceTogether to help you shape that plan and keep adapting it throughout the year, and just make more informed choices, and in the right, implement the right things.
I guess that also brings us to the end of the broadcast. So that simply leaves me just to say a huge thank you to everyone for giving up their time tonight to join us. We hope you got some valuable insights from the broadcast, and we hope we'll speak to you shortly in a couple of days' time. So that leaves me also to just remind everybody that I will make sure to send everybody the information out as early as I can tomorrow morning. We'll send you the recording, some bits of information you've seen in the broadcast, some links, etc. So you'll have that as soon as in the morning. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us, and good evening.
Yeah, thank you everybody. And as Kate says, do reach out if you've got any questions, you want to have a one-to-one meeting for your school, and to share it with the wider community. My details are there on the screen. I suppose the other thing, and something that I don't think anybody asked today, but it's usually the question that everybody's thinking in the back of their mind, is if you do want to find out more about our packages and the pricing options, if you scan that QR code on the screen, that will allow you to go straight to that page. But do pick up the phone, we'd love to chat anyway. But yeah, thanks so much for your time today, and I hope you all have a lovely evening. Bye.